Please leave a
message
after the
I was like, huh? Like, I was just, it was a bit of confusion and surprise. And then over the course of like a few hours, it started to sink in, because when you start to think of, like, his legacy, and like I mentioned to you guys earlier, not just his legacy, but his track record is really sad.
Really solid. I remember the first time I saw him, it was in his first Watershed. I call it a Watershed movie, 42, the Jackie Robinson story about the baseball player who had to deal with the racism. First Major League Baseball player inducted into the all-white team, and I believe it was that movie, Get On Up, and then Black Panther in that order. So I think the first kind of, and we're going to have a little, I don't want to keep it really dour, so we might have a little bit of levity here. When he was casted as James Brown later, I thought to myself, how come they're picking the same guy? Is this now the autobiography guy? Is this guy the the go-to guy they get? Because Hollywood seems to have that thing. They get one actor they really like, sometimes not just black, sometimes white actor, and they just give them all the roles. Not taking anything away from Boseman, but I don't know, just the more I saw him, the more I liked him, and he became that guy, that guy. And those movies, the 42, I thought was amazing. But James Brown, I really felt like I got to see him transform himself and become someone else completely. And I was a mega fan after that. So, I remember when Kevin Feige came out and announced him as the Black Panther, I was like, another, this guy's winning, but well-deserved from what he's done before. It was another shining medallion in Marvel's, growing jacket of quality actors they're they're accumulating to have these superhero roles, giving more legitimacy to, you can have really good and talented actors play these comic book fictional characters, and because they're so good at acting, they give them this new gravitas. And boy, Black Panther, that's a whole other story. I mean, what that movie did, what it was, the envisionment people wanted it to be, and what it actually became. So did you feel that growth as well as it came up for you?
Yeah, 100%. And this is someone, what really, I think the main thing about what really makes it hurt as well is the fact that what we find out is that this is something that he's had for quite a while. So he would have been filming things like possibly Captain America Civil War, but definitely Black Panther, definitely Infinity War and Endgame. With the illness. And
apparently.
And to think that this guy is doing such an iconic film while suffering with cancer, like one of the worst diseases out there. When you hear cancer, people still see it as a death sentence, even though many people do survive it nowadays. But in his case, he was diagnosed with stage 3, and which is almost irreversible at that point. And he still did Black Panther and killed it. With him and the rest of his
co-stars.
Co-stars,
Black Panther, Infinity War, Endgame. Even though it was a very small role in Endgame, but Infinity War, he had a bigger role as well. And I think, we can have a conversation about that, because that's one of the things people admire about him, because if you look at him, like you said, through that lens, it has a whole new perspective on him as an actor and as a person. You're like, this guy was suffering and still wanted to keep a level of excellence, didn't slow down his output. In fact, people thought he was acting too much. Like, this guy, like I said before, this guy's just acting in all these roles. You would never imagine. Essentially, he was a dying man all that time. It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I know people, I think there's a lot of people that respect the fact he was private about it and just, kept it completely personal until the very end. Some people I feel a little bit baited about it. I've seen people say that, oh man, I would have done more. We would have celebrated him more if we knew we had a black leader going. A lot of people are hurt by the fact they kept it because they wanted to celebrate him more. They wanted that. They didn't like the shock of it. It's just too Jack in the Box, you know. But I would be honest with you, Stanley. That's how I would do it.
You know what? I'm with you. I mean, not only is it his right, I kind of feel I relate to that a lot actually, because when I think about my family, like my dad is now late, God rest his soul, and back when he was ill, like we didn't even, me and the rest of my siblings, we pretty much had no idea that it was that kind of serious. You know, we just felt that he would eventually kind of shake it and, you know, come back. But yeah, you know, that didn't happen. And my brother was talking, he managed to add a little dedication to Boseman for his latest episode of Anime Headliners, his new podcast. And he kind of brought up how, you know, in the black community, we tend to, sometimes anyway, bottle things up, and kind of there's this kind of nobility about persevering and being strong silently and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's a cultural thing, sometimes it's a societal thing as well. But I can't, and he wasn't really saying it was good or bad. And to be honest, I'm with him on that, because at the end of the day, it's down to individual approach. Because sometimes, not to give anyone a hard time about this, but sometimes, for example, I can go on Twitter and I'll see somebody saying like, oh, nobody's going to see this, but it's my birthday today. Or in case anyone sees this, I turned 40 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're looking for
self-serving messages. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, but who really knows you on this thing? Like, why do you need someone to, maybe you can't compare like death and like a birthday, but at the same time, it's like, I think there is a lot to say about someone who is strong enough to kind of bear the burden. Who obviously, I think it's pretty much safe to say everyone in his close circle, in terms of his like family and whatnot, would have known. Maybe even some of his Hollywood circle. But he did not need by any means to kind of broadcast it to the public if he didn't feel the need to. And regardless of like what people think, people are still gonna miss him dearly.
I think one of the points, there's an underpinning point I think you were making there when you said that if you put, oh, it was my birthday online, these people don't know you. Yeah. Basically, I think a point that you were touched on under there is, who are you sharing these intimate details with? The internet, these are people that don't know you. These are anonymous people. You know, when something happens to you, you want to keep it maybe to the people who care about you the most, you know? Now, I know some people get, I respect Chadwick Boseman for keeping it to himself. Up until his death was the own, I know that someone like Freddie Mercury, by the way, because they mentioned this, obviously he had AIDS for a while, but he didn't really tell people until, he didn't make it public until like he was on his deathbed. I think the same thing for even Eazy-E, stuff like, so that's when you're like, oh my God, you're going to usually find out about these things historically from celebrities when they're nearly dead. You know what I mean? Not when they're already passed. So, but I don't want to see too much on this, but I do. It's, again, the way Boseman did it is ironically the way I would do it, because I would want the people to know, the people that's important to me in my life that I actually know. I know things are different with the internet now. You can have 10 million followers and they all want to be part of your quote unquote family. But I think there's something to be said about knowing your tribe and just sticking to that, and knowing who really matters about that. So I know some people just wish people that don't even know him wish that they had more time with him, and it's a massive loss. But I kind of respect what he went through, and more importantly, it just puts a whole new lens, knowing over the last couple of years he was suffering like that, kept it to himself, and was still working, still staying true to himself to the very end. It's absolutely it's something I think he's going to be remembered for. That's a personal choice of perseverance, endurance, and commitment that is so pure, because he didn't tell anyone to the very end. I think it's something people are gonna look at him for, and it really
100%.
enhances everything he did and everything he stood for. I mean, Black Panther is legendary enough without a man literally battling for all of his life, you know, in silence. I mean, it's a definition of a real hero.
Please leave another message at voiceofmail.com.